Okay, this first reading, this section is only a few weeks into my becoming a carer. Just to set the scene, I'd previously been living in France, as I said, and I'd been working on a building site, mixing concrete, nailing things together and so on, as you'll see in the story. Okay. I have become aware of an unexpected aspect to my life here. I suppose I could have anticipated it, but I didn't. I now live in a world of women. The carers are women. The care agency manager, Dot, and the office staff I speak to from time to time are women. The 2 district nurses who have come by with incontinence charts and a general health check for mum are women. Our doctor is a woman. The carer support representative who brought me literature on keeping myself healthy, mentally and physically, is a woman called Joan, with a fine line in irony concerning the life of a carer. Lynn, the occupational therapist, has made so many visits to oversee equipment like shower chairs and hospital beds being safely delivered that I now know her favourite biscuits, ginger nuts, as it happens. I had a call the other day from Dana, a member of the SALT team, speech and language therapy. Julie also called to organise a superior kind of wheelchair for us, one that will offer more side support and a headrest. Then there's Sylvia, the Parkinson's nurse. She has a thick Glaswegian accent, but is soft-spoken and full of compassion. She will visit every 6 months or so, with a first visit planned just a few weeks from now. I am frankly astonished to have so much help from so many women. Some men might be overwhelmed. As it happens, I feel quite at home basking in this level of female support. Though what this imbalance says about the sexes and about the business of caring, about men and women and about society as a whole, will take a good deal of space and time to debate. Certainly, my new life is quite a change from my year in France with my friend Phil, working together on his building site. There we spent our days under the hot sun, nailing things together, mixing concrete and generally doing hard physical work. Apart from 2 visits by my daughters, women were conspicuous by their absence. We lived as 2 solitary monks, or as the majority of the French believed, a typically English couple, odd but harmless. If some of the women I encounter have doubts about my ability to look after my mother, I may also have a certain cachet simply because I am a man. There's good and bad in this. My gender and my role as a carer, despite statistics that tell otherwise, is considered not just uncommon, but borderline unnatural, making me laudable and appealing on the one hand, but also one to watch. There is a significant element of performance to my new role, which only plays to my strengths, to be fair. I make sure there's a good deal of chat with the carers. Banter breaks down barriers and puts us all more at ease. Also, I hope. Claire is one of our regulars, coming either for the morning call when we shower mum or the evening call when we change her into night clothes ready for bed. Unlike Lisa, who is almost always upbeat and chatty, Claire can look like she's carrying the weight of the world. She gets up at 5, generally misses breakfast to get to the yard, where her first care call of the day is her horse, too old to ride any longer, but too beloved to be put down. She might already have done 3 or 4 care calls before she arrives here at 8:30. What cheers her up is when I offer peanut butter on toast with her morning cup of tea. If we're all becoming more relaxed in each other's company, I still find it odd that the private space of our home has become so public. This is partly circumstantial. There is no airing cupboard in the house, and the other 2 bedrooms are small, with very little storage. My room, my father's old bedroom, has built-in cupboards down the length of one wall. The storage is sufficient to house all the sheets, blankets and towels, along with my mother's clothes and my own paltry supply of shirts and trousers, 1 jumper and a sweatshirt brought over in a single suitcase from France. So there is every reason for carers to come and go as they please, retrieving a fresh incontinence sheet, finding dry towels or a supply of pads, whatever it might be. My personal habits, including whether I make the bed in the morning, leave my socks on the floor, or worse still, my pants, reveal more than I might choose to share. Even the partisan Lisa, on my side in all other areas, is not above making it clear how she feels about what she sees. The implied and sometimes openly stated men tagged on the end of these casual observations is never more justified than when applied to the washing pile. Lumping together darks and lights apparently constitutes a terrorist action. I have never owned or operated a dryer before and had no idea these machines routinely ruin clothes in a way that makes you wonder why anyone would risk using them. The latest victims were a couple of linen shirts I found on a sale rack, now reduced in a way I had never bargained for. This week, there's been a man amongst the visitors to the bungalow, someone with very little interest in my ability to operate a washing machine or a dryer. Jim is ripping out the shower cubicle, digging up the floor tiles with a view to creating our new wet bathroom. So we've been without a proper shower for about 4 days. There are heavy-duty black bin bags in the garage full of rubble and old tiles. Perspex doors and a hefty shower tray made of concrete and ceramic are lying outside in the driveway. I will get it all to the local dump, but I don't know when. A man of few words, Jim has assured me the work will be complete in time for my father's celebration of life, enabling guests to pee and powder their noses without going behind the bushes in the garden. That is a real relief. I thought I might change the mood a bit, at least I hope it changes the mood. So this is set about 6 months into taking care of Mum, and it was the first of the incidents that really shook me, I suppose. Mum was taken to hospital. I called the doctor in because she was looking a bit peaky and it was obvious there was a UTI, but when the doctor took her oxygen levels, he suspected sepsis. So Mum was in hospital for 10 days. And at first they said she couldn't be fed and they were going to give her a peg feed and so on. So the only way I could make sure that that didn't happen, because it was not something I wanted, was to feed her myself. So the 10 days, I've said here, left scars on us both, especially Mum, who had bed sores on both heels and on her sacrum when she came home. So this is the story slightly afterwards. In the first week or two after Mum's discharge from hospital, the district nurses came twice a day to change the bloody dressings. They went about their task with an easy competence, apparently accepting that hospital could do such things to a vulnerable patient. The routine of 3 care visits a day started up again as if nothing had happened, as did meal times and medications. For a while, family solicitations came thick and fast. There were even congratulations from the carers, who seemed to have a new respect for me, or at least to have lost some of their misgivings about a son, a man, in this job. Like the district nurses, they were sanguine about the sores. For many of their clients, a hospital stay signalled the beginning of the end. We were lucky, they said. I didn't feel lucky, except in the sense that we were slowly getting back to where we were before. Something has changed, I felt. Not so much in my mother, but in me. She is quieter, more withdrawn, but otherwise as she was, as far as I can tell. But I have a new watchfulness, a distrust of things as they are, a sense that having suffered one injustice, another could come along at any moment. The system I once saw as a safety net no longer gives me confidence, mainly because there is such a chasm between social care in the community and hospital care. I may be gilding the past, but I have the impression, from my own memories as a sickly child and from the history books, that in days gone by, that gap was bridged by local district nurses out in the community and by GPs who knew their patients as individuals, who together could spot trouble before it became a serious issue. Now things are more impersonal and we're all more mobile in our lives, and the minor complaint of a urinary infection or a rattle in the chest can quickly escalate to become life-threatening, a bewildering turn of events that leaves its mark. For weeks now, I've felt hunted in the day, shattered in the evening, and wakeful at night. It is as if I too have lost a layer of skin. Still, we're recovering the status quo. We're no longer an emergency and a source of worry to others, professionals or family. Once again, we've become peripheral, the ticking clock on the mantelpiece of other people's more hectic and chaotic lives. A separate world where no news is good news. Despite my strong sense that our life is more contingent than I fully understood, other people have reverted to seeing us as stable and unchanging, which on the surface is true. The hours are counted out in coffee spoons and cake, pads and medications, shorter days and longer nights. When the day is done, I lie in what was once my father's bed and read. If there's no sound of wind or rain and everything is still, I feel like the only living being in the world, despite the fact that I can often hear Mum breathing heavily or snoring from down the hallway. The hollowness I feel during the day is amplified by the stillness of the night. I've become acutely aware of the inertia of things, the heaviness and immobility of the material world when I feel so alone. Unless I get up and move something, Nothing moves. Unless I speak, the house is silent. I don't much like this kind of hyper-awareness, where a spider high on the wall or the skin on the back of your hands become mysterious objects of fascination that might just seep into dreams, or rather nightmares. I know that I need some kind of reflection of self, someone real and present that isn't this voice in my head. You need that if you're not to lose touch with who you are, or at least I do, because there's been some kind of disconnect between me and myself that I can't quite explain. The public and the private, my appearance to others and the real me inside are drifting apart. Father, carer, son, man, former television producer, former painter and decorator, former everything really. All these incarnations feel like masks I've worn in past performances. Here, there is only one person in the audience, 2 or 3 if you include the carers, and no one is paying much attention to my interpretation of the role anyway. The theatre is dark, the auditorium just a rows of empty seats. Nevertheless, I've polished up a stoical attitude, not simply because it's required, but because misery is ugly, and I prefer to keep a lid on things. That's the outside, but there's an inside that is worryingly empty, a blank sense of who I am, as if I've been whitewashed and am hard to make out, even to myself. I smile like Frodo, deliver magic pills and potions like Gandalf, but Gollum is always lurking in the shadows. He comes out at night with the spiders. I'm especially aware of him. Now I detect a new feeling in myself, a kind of simmering discontent, a nascent sourness I don't want to acknowledge, because it sits badly with the selfless suburban hero I've somehow become in the eyes of others, carers, professionals, and even my own family, because there's nothing I can do about it anyway. So when people call, I have hungry questions. I want the drama of other lives as a distraction. I want to feel involved, especially with those nearest and dearest to me, because caring requires the concentration of so much time and effort on one person. You are also, by default, liable to shortchange friends and family. Is there such a thing as carer's guilt? There we are. This is set about 6 months into looking after Mum, and I hope we're sort of over the hospital experience and finding a bit of equilibrium and even joy in being together. After a meal or a snack, assuming it's gone down well, there's often a pause where nothing needs to be done, and where we're alone in the house or sitting side by side in the garden. Now the weather is good and we can be outside. I take every opportunity, even when wind or rain threaten. In the care home, she was never outdoors, except when we visited and asked that she be hoisted into a wheelchair so we could walk the grounds. Now that it's early summer, there are days of sunshine and wilder days with scudding clouds, where the breeze is warm enough that a blanket and a shawl will suffice for Mum's needs. I knew the outdoors would be good for her, but I'm surprised to find that she knows it too. Though she hardly speaks, I talk to her too much probably, about being here in the garden, pointing out what's going on around us, making sure she's not cold and happy to be here. Only the other day, when the weather was mixed and I put a shawl over her shoulders and head, I said, "You look like a little Russian babushka. Are you sure you don't mind being out here?" I expected nothing in return, but she was lucid and clear in her response and caught me completely by surprise. "I love being outside," she said. I should have known it from the way she soaks up the sights and sounds of this very suburban garden, as if we were sitting together in an exotic landscape. She visibly feels the breeze, screwing up her nose as if to take in scents that might come to her. The movement of a bird or the sound of a plane passing overhead will attract her attention and she will look towards the source. But it is more than just noticing. I can't quite explain the calm that comes over her, except to remind myself that we can all react to the natural world in the same way, taking comfort, breathing more deeply, experiencing a sense of exhilaration at knowing we're part of something bigger than ourselves. I want to claim more. I like to hope that out here, having been inside a centrally heated care home for so long and confined to her own home by my father's anxiety that she might fall or hurt herself, that she feels free. I have no proof, nothing to confirm this sense of things, bar the absolute conviction of my own intuition, the smile on her face, and her engagement with the world around us. These times are the most precious of all, and I must learn to cherish them and foster them, even when there is so much else to do. It's all too easy to find chores that need seeing to, or to constantly minister to Mum as a way of reassuring myself that I'm actively caring. But I try to fight the instinct to be busy when I don't have to be, and to find time simply to be mother and son, just two people together. It occurs to me at these times that though my mother and I have known each other all our lives, we've spent very little time alone like this, just sitting. It takes a little getting used to, each being the centre of things for the other. The dependency ought to be familiar, even if the role of caregiver has shifted from her to me, but it's not. There's so much I'd like to ask her, so much I would like to thank her for, but I've never really acknowledged her care for me, either to myself, or more importantly, to her. Life for my mother is winding down and wearing out. I am witness to a quadrant of it in which atrophy is the governing principle and death the inevitable end. There's something fascinating in seeing an entirely natural process at such close quarters. She is my mum, but the process of aging makes it apparent she is also subject to the laws and rhythms of nature, continually churning life into death, inexorable and indifferent certainly, but also universal. Only here in the garden, early summer is playing out another tune altogether. All around us are the signs of life asserting itself, flourishing in the warm sun, growing and somehow brighter before our eyes, more vibrant and more intense. Young blue tits come and go from the hanging feeders, cheeky and careless, quite indifferent to us as we sit side by side only a few feet away. The grass is thicker and more lush than it was even a week ago, and the peonies are coming into flower. All of which makes me wonder where I fit in. I am, after all, subject to the same laws of nature and the same inevitable process of atrophy, even if I see myself with a future beyond the role of carer. And the pace has definitely picked up recently. Maybe stress plays a part. It can't do any good. I know I've put on weight, if only because I was doing physical work in France, whereas all I do here is pad around the house with trays of food or sit at a desk to tackle paperwork. But I'm not just older, but I'm also just older, slipping down the same slide as mum, only a little way behind her, gripping hard to the sides in order to slow the inevitable. I can try to accept the outward signs of age, but it's more difficult to live with the aches and pains in places I have never had much cause to pay much attention to before now. Ankles, knees, even finger joints occasionally flare up for no apparent reason and with no specific cause other than the wear and tear of many years of uncomplaining service. Joan, who heads the local carers support group, told me carers tend to neglect their own health simply because their whole focus is on another person's needs. She said I should make a conscious effort to guard and promote my own well-being, though she didn't offer a palliative for the aging process. Mental health too can suffer, she said, with half of all full-time carers seeing a doctor at some point for depression or anxiety, and many ending up on long-term medication. Wine is my bastion against the need for prescription drugs. Not that I say as much to the nice woman from carers support.